Hi guys, welcome back. In this video, I am going to discuss a very important CSS concept which is Flexbox. What is Flexbox? Flexbox or Flexible Layout Model is a layout model in CSS that provides an efficient way to arrange, align and distribute element. So if we want to align our element either horizontal direction or vertical direction on web pages, then we can use this flexbox concept. Great for dealing with dynamic or unknown sizes. It is a better approach than float property to align the element on web pages. So before this flexbox concept was introduced in CSS, we used float property to align our element, but float property is not a recommended approach to aligning the element because it have many complications. We can only align the direct children of parent element. So in flexbox we have one parent element, and inside this parent element we have many child element. One dimensional layout model. So flexbox is a one dimensional layout model, and CSS grid is two dimensional layout model, and we will discuss about the CSS grid also in our later videos. Flex item are put in a flex container. So in this figure we can see we have one flex container, and inside this flex container we have three flex item, and we have one property flex direction row. So when we set the flex direction row, so at that time this x axis is the main axis and this y axis is the cross axis, and this property flex direction row, it is by default the direction is row. To display a flex container you need to set the flex container display flex. So we have to set the parent container property display flex, then the items inside the flex container will align side by side within the container. And in this slide the flex direction property I have set to column. At that time we can see the flex items are aligned in column direction. At that time this y axis is the main axis and this x axis is the cross axis, just opposite to this figure. Okay, here the flex direction is row, so the x axis is the main axis and the y axis is the cross axis. But when we set the flex direction column, at that time the x axis become the cross axis and this y axis become the main axis. So this is all about the theoretical part. So let's open the VS Code and first create a .html file here. New file, and so create one new HTML file, flexbox basic dot HTML. So this is our boilerplate code, and change the title here flex box, and inside this body I'm going to take one h1 element, so give some heading here flexbox we can say flexbox demo. Okay, and after this I'm going to take one parent container which is a div and assign one class here, flex container. Okay, so it is the parent container, and inside this container we have the child div. We can write here item 1, and let's copy 2 more times. Sorry. Item 1, item 2, item 3 and item 4, and we need to give one class here, so we can flex item. You can take here any name, class name, it's not mandatory to take the same. So our parent container having the class flex container and the child items having the class flex item. Okay, so for all the child put the same class. So okay, so we have 4 child of this parent container. Okay, and I'm going to launch our live server. Okay, so now I'm going to give some style to our divs. I'm going to set font family, and after this here I'm going to set the style for these flex items first. I'm going to set width 200 pixel and height also 200 pixel, and then color we can take this coral color, and border 1 pixel, solid, not red, black. Control S. Okay, so these are the flex item. Let me expand this. Now I'm going to set the CSS property for this flex container, which is parent container. First I'm going to set background. Okay, so here we can see this is the parent container, and how we can use the flex flexbox concept. So just we need to set display flex, control S. So here we can see now our element are displaying side by side on our web pages. Okay, so these are the flex items. So in flexbox we have few other property also, like flex direction also we can set. Flex direction, so flex direction by default it is row. Okay, so here I am going to save this. There is no change here because the by default the flex direction is row. So let's change it to flex direction column. I'm going to save this. Here we can see now the item are floating in the vertical direction. So this is the flex direction property, and we have few more flex direction properties value, like we can see row reverse also. Here I'm going to save this. Here now you can see the item 4 is the appearing on the leftmost side, then item 3, 2 and 1. And flex direction we have column reverse also. So same thing, item 4 appearing on the top, and then 3, 2 and 1. So this is the flex direction. So just comment this one also. Save this, and here we can see we have set the width and height of our flex item as 200 pixel, but if we shrinking our web browser, then the item is also shrinking. So how we can fix it? We want the 200 pixel only, not less than 200 pixel. So for this we have one more property, which is flex wrap. And the value we need to pass wrap. Yes, so now it's set to the 200 pixel. Okay, so if we have the less browser width, at that time the item align next to each other. Okay, so this is the flex wrap property. And suppose if we want to if we want the gap between our each item, for that we need to use gap property. Gap 10 pixel. So here we can see now we have a 10 pixel gap between our items. So suppose this property providing the gap between the row and columns, but suppose if we want the gap in the column only, then we have to use column gap 10 pixel. I'm going to save this. So here now wave only, gap in the column only. So these are the few property which we can use for displaying our item as a flex box. Thank you for watching this video.